What's up, everybody? I hope everyone is doing well. On today's episode of Tower Talk, we're going to take a look into what exactly air traffic controllers do, the types of controllers there are, and what happens behind the scenes to get passengers to and from their destinations safely each and every day throughout the national airspace system. Air traffic controllers consist of about 14,000 individuals who make sure that the flying public arrives safely on their flights day in and day out at more than 500 commercial airports across the United States. On any given day, there are more than 45,000 commercial flights that take place in the United States alone. So some of you may wonder how exactly those flights operate so smoothly. Well, you see, it all starts in an air traffic control tower with a controller working what's called flight data or clearance delivery. The controller working this position is tasked with giving your pilots commanding the flight what's called a clearance or a flight plan. The clearance will give the pilots the necessary information to plug into the aircraft, such as the routing that the plane is going to take, what altitude can be expected, the frequency they will contact once they have left their departure airport, and any other vital information to the flight that the pilots need to know. Once this has been completed and the passengers have boarded, the flight crew then reaches out to what is called ground control. The controller working this position is responsible for any vehicle or aircraft that is operating in what we call the movement areas of an airport. The movement areas usually consist of taxiways, which pilots get instructions to taxi on to get the aircraft to the runway in order to depart in sequence, and also includes any runways that are not being used in an active status. Ground control can be pretty difficult to work, especially during heavy traffic times when the airport gets congested, due to things like weather and delays. Once ground control has taxied the aircraft to the runway, the pilots then switch to the tower frequency, or as we call it, the local position in the tower. The local position is responsible for aircraft in the air inside the airport's airspace, and they keep airplanes separated via the necessary requirements put in place by the 711 0.65. Now, the local position in a tower cab is usually the spot most controllers want to be. It's fast-paced, airplanes are moving around at really fast speeds, and your job is to have a plan for every single one of those planes. It keeps you on your toes and is a constant reminder of how you need to be on top of the situation at hand, and to always have a backup plan in case things don't work out how you hoped. So anytime your plane takes the runway for departure, just know that a local controller in the tower cab has already checked and double-checked that their plan is going to work. I mentioned earlier that when an aircraft is picking up their clearance with the flight data or clearance delivery controller, that they receive a frequency to contact when they leave the origin airport. Well, now that your flight has departed and is on its way, it's time to contact what we call departure, otherwise known as the TRACON. The TRACON is split up into departure controllers and arrival controllers. And when your flight is leaving your origin airport, they will contact a departure controller that will give instructions to the pilots to climb to a certain altitude before being passed off to a center controller. On the contrary, when your flight is descending and preparing to get to the destination, a center controller will start the descent for a flight before being passed off to an arrival controller who will work the flight down to a certain point until it's time to contact the tower. TRACON controllers are typically very busy working both arrivals and departures to airports and are kind of the middleman between aircraft departing and arriving to an airport and at level cruise. The center controller mentioned previously are the controllers who are working flights that are climbing to their cruise altitude, as well as the flights leaving cruising altitude as they get closer to their destination airport. Center controllers work a lot of airplanes, but they also have a lot of airspace available to them. So when you're sipping on your in-flight refreshments and snacking, the center controllers are monitoring your flight path and making changes to your route depending on factors such as weather, delays at the destination airport, or any other significant events taking place high in the skies. These three stages of controlling are the basic breakdown of what it takes for a flight to operate safely in the United States. In other videos, I will break down exactly how controllers use their equipment and knowledge to ensure the safe and expeditious flow of traffic. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you smash that like button.